Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. Thank you to the audience for paying attention to this very important issue. Dr. Duane, since 2010, independent community pharmacies have been disappearing from the landscape. In fact, more than 1 in 7 have disappeared. That's about 15% of independent pharmacies. And one reason for the dramatic decline is because of something called DIR fees, direct and indirect remuneration fees that PBMs charge pharmacies. You're familiar with these fees, right, Dr. Duane?
Indeed I am, yes.
For those who aren't familiar with these fees, these are unpredictable fees PBMs retroactively charge pharmacies months after they dispense prescriptions and after PBMs have reimbursed the pharmacies for doing so. Sometimes these DIR fees amount to retroactive clawbacks of the entire amount of the reimbursements that they provided to the pharmacies, and shockingly, sometimes they're more than the reimbursements they provided the pharmacies. So instead of making money on these prescriptions, these pharmacies end up losing money on these prescriptions because of the DIR fees, right, Dr. Duane?
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right. There can be two ways to incentivize someone. You could use a carrot or you could use a stick. And the DIR fees that these PBMs have used are quite a big stick.
Well, let me jump in. According to the government, these DIR fees increased by 107,400% from 2010 to 2020. This is not a typo. This is not a typo. This is a travesty. And you know what PBMs really stand for, Dr. Duane? It stands for pretty big markups. That's what PBMs stand for, and we've got to stop this. Let me turn to another slide that I have talking about another aspect of what PBMs do. PBMs make a lot of money, and one way they make money is through rebates, which you talked about earlier, I believe. Mr. Baker, originally these PBMs were supposed to help third-party payers like insurance companies, employers help negotiate the lowest price of prescription drugs, right?
Correct.
But what they did was they maintained these lists of medications called drug formularies, which listed the drugs and the drug makers that made the best deals with the PBMs on behalf of their clients. Here's where the problems began. The PBMs started extracting quote-unquote rebate payments, as you described earlier, from drug makers to be listed on the formularies, even though the PBMs did not pass along the rebate payments to the payers and the consumers. So what ended up happening is that these rebate payments look like kickbacks, not like rebates or discounts. Isn't that right?
I would agree with that statement.
And look at what's happened. It's fattened the bottom line of PBMs. PBMs have seen their profits rise from 2010 to 2020 by 97%, so almost doubling in 10 years. That's 3 times what the stock market has yielded. So, let me just ask you, Mr. Baker, is it any surprise that PBMs have caused such great concern among consumers? A recent poll by Morning Consult showed in March of 2023, so this year, that 85% of Americans are quote-unquote concerned, including almost 70% very concerned, that PBMs are, quote, overcharging for prescription medicines and pocketing the difference as profit. In that survey, 88% of Democrats and 88% of Republicans shared that concern. Can you think of a single issue where almost 90% of Democrats and Republicans agree on anything, Mr. Baker?
No, but that's encouraging to see.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we have a mandate on the part of the American people. When 90% of Americans are concerned about an issue like PBMs, we must investigate. I'm glad the FTC and the Biden administration are doing so right now. I look forward to the results and on taking corrective measures. We cannot be complacent on this issue. Thank you, and I yield back.